Yeah, here we are. We are back. It is time for the MMA After Hour. Some might say their favorite segment of the show. This is when we let our hair down. You wanted to say something?
No, go ahead.
What?
Keep
I
going.
said some might say. Is that wrong?
No, you know.
What a show it has been. I mean, I really feel like we got all the perspectives. Oscar, Holly.
Oscar throwing flames.
Oscar just doesn't want to admit it, that it wasn't a bad night. He kind of admitted it, but he didn't.
He kind of admitted it. I feel like it was a lot different than the tweet. The tweet came off, real salty.
Yeah. The going into it, the final blow on Friday.
Yeah.
That was aggressive for Oscar. He's usually not that kind. And then Dana's.
Look, he's a fighter.
Yeah.
He's a fighter. And he's fighting for it. And look, is he wrong? Let's be honest about the what he's saying. Is he wrong?
No.
Boxing match. Which is the boxing match that you want to see?
Well,
and for me, it's no question.
Okay, here's the part that he may not want to admit. This was actually good for Canelo Triple G because it elevated.
For sure.
It elevated boxing, and even Sports Illustrated, Greg Bishop wrote a great story about the summer of boxing. Boxing was on everyone's mind. Every outlet under the sun was at that fight on Saturday, and they all went there. I don't want to say all. 95% of them went there begrudgingly. 95% of them went there wanting to confirm their prophecy that this fight was going to be a farce, a sham, another black eye for boxing. And if they don't want to admit on Monday morning or Monday afternoon at this point that it was a success, that it was entertaining, that it was the best Floyd fight in a decade, that Conor represented, they're lying. They're doing themselves a disservice and their audience a disservice. They are lying through their teeth if they don't admit that that was worth the $100 and that was better than they expected. It was not a farce. It was not a sham. It was not what people said it was going to be when they criticized the Nevada Athletic Commission. Now, only way to find out was for the fight to happen. All the stuff leading up to it, fine. You could say that. You could feel that way about the fight. But after the fact, if you did choose to say that, which I didn't believe it was, but if you did choose to say that, then after the fact, you got to give props where it's due. Conor exceeded your expectations. Floyd fought the way he promised he was going to fight. He had a great game plan. Conor came out strong. No one was hurt. The referee did a great job. There's really no negatives. The only bad part about the fight, in my opinion, the only bad part were the judges. The judges were off. That's the only bad part. It's the only negative thing I can say about the fight.
I thought the referee was a little shaky.
In what respect?
He was letting Conor get away with
but
a little too many rabbit punches. I'm not for guys getting hit in the back of the head in boxing.
Okay, but look, I'll take Chris Eubanks' word over yours.
Sure.
Chris Eubanks
and you're welcome to do that.
Chris Eubanks said that those weren't powerful punches, and also I believe
of course they weren't powerful.
It was Joe Cortez who said that Floyd was turning his back. Floyd was trying to bait him into doing that.
No doubt about it. If a guy's turning his back like that, you have to hold them accountable for getting punched in the back of the head. But now when Conor's wrapping him up and he's defenseless and he has one arm around him and he's rabbit punching him in the back of the head, I'm not for that. I think, there's a line to that.
He was a lot more lenient, and I thought early on that he was testing his limits. But then it was interesting when he went, 1, 2, 3 rounds up. I was like, okay, now, at first I was like, yeah, he might as well try to lose a point just to set a tone. But then once you're up 3 rounds to none, at least in my eyes, okay, those points become precious. You don't want to lose points now because you're up. And he kept testing. It's a shame that he got tired. I saw, it was very clear to everyone that he was losing steam. I wish we could see, a Conor. Look, give him credit. He admits that he hits these rough patches, and this is something that's going to plague him throughout his life and career. It's a shame that happened, but them's the breaks, and that's what makes Floyd so great.
Let's transition to this question then. Okay. How much do you attribute Conor's apparent success in the early rounds to Floyd's game plan of gassing Conor out? Do you think that it was calculated by Floyd to allow Conor to look good early?
Listen, I believe that part of his game plan was let him shoot his shot, and then we'll capitalize towards the end. I don't believe that it was part of his game plan to get hit as much as he got hit. We have the photographic evidence. We have the video evidence. He did not want to get hit that much. That's not something that he enjoys. He's made a living off of not getting hit. So to say that Floyd carried him, to say that Floyd let him win those rounds, I think is taking something away from Conor. Now, Floyd figured him out, as everyone thought he would, and ran away with the victory, the back end of the fight. But to not give Conor any credit for attacking him the way he did and for, more importantly, landing the way he did, to me is not fair. So yes, it's a bit of both. And that's kind of the answer to all the questions about this fight. It's okay to say that Conor did better than you thought, that Conor represented, that he fought valiantly. And it's also okay to say that Floyd fought a great fight, his most entertaining fight in a decade, and ultimately figured him out and won.
I think there's a limit to that, though. I think it's clear when the low output is there in the first couple of rounds that Floyd was allowing him not to punch him in the face. There's no Floyd Mayweather fight or circumstance where Floyd is allowing somebody to punch him in the face. But what he was allowing him to do was to see what his offense was going to be, test him, see his output, see his power, and inevitably then use that and turn it on later. I don't think it's unfair or inaccurate to say that Floyd was not trying to win those rounds. I don't think it's inaccurate to say that he was not, he was purposefully not going at a pace that was sure to win those rounds. But Conor had to do enough to capitalize on them, and he did. And then toward the later rounds, I think it was clear that the game plan to take Conor into deep waters was working, and he was able to knock him out.
Yeah, it worked out.
But he also changed his style. He also was way more aggressive than he would typically be. At a certain point, he stopped respecting Conor's power because it was clear that Conor was not loading up the same way he could in the early rounds. And stopped respecting it, came forward in a style that was definitely not Floyd Mayweather. Around round 4 or 5, you're seeing Floyd Mayweather be the one on the offensive and chase Conor down, which was not what I would have expected out of this fight. And Conor, is a part of that dance. It's unfair to him to say that this was a completely
He brought out the best in Floyd
Mayweather led fight. But I will say this: at no point did I feel like Floyd Mayweather was in trouble. I didn't feel in those first couple of rounds that Floyd Mayweather was in trouble.
Fair, but wasn't it not a little bit surreal to be like, holy smokes, he's up 3 rounds? Like, he's doing a lot better.
Not really. If you watch Floyd enough, he lets those early rounds.
Look, you could do this. You could do this all you want. He was landing punches. He was opening. He was breaking his guard a little bit. He was landing punches. Those 3 rounds could have been dull.
As I said, I was impressed by Conor. I came in not expecting anything.
Okay.
And I was impressed.
I'm happy you mentioned Floyd's attack though, because Floyd, afterwards, Conor said, I turned him into a Mexican. And a lot of people once again get all sensitive. It's like, oh,
sure.
No, that's actually a huge compliment. Mexican fighters are known to be aggressive, balls to the wall, reckless abandon. They're the most exciting boxers out there. He was saying that he turned Floyd into that. It was a compliment. So relax, everyone.
If people were watching the fight between Canelo and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the whole buildup to that fight was we're getting 2 Mexican boxers.
Exactly. Great point.
There's this association with Mexican boxers that they stand in the middle of the ring, they trade, they're aggressive, they're relentless, and this is what he was alluding to. He's saying that instead of the defensive genius hiding behind the shell that Floyd usually is, he was out of his shell and he was aggressive and he was chasing it like a Mexican boxer would.
Yes.
And my wife asked me, what does that mean? And I had to explain it to her. But I think anybody who knows boxing knows what that he was saying there.
Can I ask you about the line? So the line was 9.5, and there are some who think that. Okay, so there's a story that Floyd told on ESPN that he tried. Oh,
that line. Okay.
Yeah. What'd you mean?
I thought you were talking about the line of the straight up pick'em.
No.
Between them.
Oh, that was crazy. I mean, he should have been 20-1.
At least
it's crazy that I got that
easy
close.
money.
But anyway, no, it was 9.5 rounds, and so if you pick the under, you win, right?
No, he's finished him around 10.
Yeah, but that's not a completed 10. So he wanted to bet the under.
No, so 9.5.
Yeah.
If you pick the under on 9.5, he would have had to finish him in round 9. If you pick the over,
so why do people say that it was 9.5 and he wanted to go under and win?
Well, it was clear that he was trying to finish him in round 9.
No, but
he damn near took him out of there.
But no, everyone said that if he would have gotten that bet, he tried to bet like $800,000 or something, and he couldn't. They wouldn't allow him.
I didn't see the story, but all I'm saying is if the line is set at 9.5, that was an over. If he finished him in round 10.
Okay, here's CBS Sports, all right? Here's CBS Sports. I just want to read this. Mayweather tried to bet $400,000 on the McGregor fight, but was denied. No matter how you feel about the spectacle that was before the fight, multiple sources told ESPN that Mayweather went into a sports book, the M Resort, around 3:30 p.m. Pacific Saturday with cash and plans to bet on his fight against UFC star Conor McGregor. Mayweather attempted to place $400,000 bet on the fight ending under 9.5 rounds at minus 200 odds. But according to a source, there were concerns over the legality of a fighter betting on anything other than a straight win, which caused a delay. Now, according to the report, Mayweather also wanted to place a bet on himself to win by knockout, but grew tired of waiting and left without placing any bets. But that doesn't necessarily mean...
That bet would have lost.
Okay. This is what he said to ESPN, quote, I think that we bet 100 on 9.5. I gave my guys 6 figures to go bet. I have to make sure he bet because early today I went to the sports book to bet and they wouldn't let me. And so he's saying that he won the bet, but just less.
He lost that bet. 9.5.
I know. That's why I didn't get that either, but they kept saying.
If he finishes him around 10, that's an over. If the line is set at 9.5, if the rounds are set at 9.5.
See, this is Deadspin. Had Mayweather successfully made the bets at the M Sportsbook, he would have won them both. The fight indeed lasted fewer than the full 10. Full 10. It has to be full 10. And he did, in fact, win by knockout.
You know what? That's right. They're in round 10. They're in round 10.
I'm right.
Yeah, you're right.
So there you go. And he won by knockout. That's the official ruling was knockout.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
that's my mistake.
there you go.
It has to go to the end of the 10th. He finished him in the 10th. You're right.
So he would have won. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now people, I've seen
rounds.
some people who, oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. I go onto the plane. I had 45 minutes of sleep. I go to the plane and I'm looking at my phone. I'm about to board the plane. So you go through that tunnel where they scan your ticket. And then I look up briefly, and you know who cuts me off? Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson cuts me off by himself without any bags, wearing a cotton short sleeve button down, cotton shorts, and it's just me and him walking. And I go up to Mike. I'm like, "Hey, Mike, did you like the fight?" Doesn't answer me. I say, "Hey, Mike, you're a legend." He's like, "Rrr." And he just kind of like wobbling onto, and everyone's like, "Holy crap, that's Mike Tyson." The University of Binghamton volleyball team was behind us, and they were like freaking out that Mike Tyson. But for a minute, it was just me and him walking down the thing. And then he walks onto the plane, and who's sitting there? Renzo Gracie. And I'm like, I can't believe that I'm just leaving an MMA versus boxing event. And here we have Renzo Gracie and Mike Tyson interacting. And Renzo's like, "You remember me from Hawaii?" And so we were talking, and I actually spoke to Renzo. That was just mind-blowing. Like Mike Tyson, Renzo Gracie. And so Renzo, without saying too much, was kind of insinuating about like carrying him for the 10 rounds and stuff like that. Do you really believe that? Because he could have won in the 6th and still won that bet. I don't believe that there was...
won in the 6th and still won that bet.
I don't think that there was any foul play.
It's damn clear. Why would he carry him to 10 to make it risky? It was very clear that he was about to finish him at the end of round 9, and that when he was coming out for 10, he was about to get finished.
Yeah.
It was very clear. The end of round 9, Conor McGregor was done, was cooked, and that fight was going to end in round 10. But why push it to the limit? Why not finish him earlier?
Yeah.
He make
won,
sense.
like
if he had bet the over, and that's why the idea of allowing a fighter to bet on themselves on the number of rounds should not be allowed, because then you have a situation where they're allowing the fight to go on or not allowing the fight to go on if they're in control. So clearly, that makes sense that a fighter should only be allowed to bet on themselves straight up,
especially a promoter,
and especially somebody who has more on the line than just the fight itself. Okay, that was only question number 1. What was your reaction to the 2 judges that absurdly scored 2 of the first 3 rounds for Mayweather? I know you didn't have it.
I don't know if they're biased. I gave him the first 4. I gave him 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, Steve Farhood even gave him, I think it was the 8th. I mean,
I also thought he could have taken the 8th as well.
Yeah, so come on. That was silly.
I didn't understand it. I mean, as I said, I at no point thought Floyd Mayweather was not in control of that fight and not going to lose that fight. But if you didn't give him the rounds, Conor the rounds there, I'm not sure what you were watching. Floyd wasn't throwing anything. There were some good body shots in there. I'd have to watch it again. There were definitely some good body shots in there. But I think Conor took the first 3 or 4 rounds pretty convincingly. He looked fresh. He was landing good shots.
Switching stances and stuff. And I mean,
again, It could have been, look, if they were looking at it from the perspective of Floyd not being in trouble, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that he's winning the round.
The other thing was, like, I wholeheartedly disagree with Paulie on this front. The knock on Conor has always been that he quits, right? That's what people say about the Joe Duffy fight, the first fight against the Lithuanian, and then, of course, the Nate Diaz fight.
Yes.
He actually didn't quit this time. Like, he could have quit. He could have easily fell to the ground and ended that. But not only did he not quit, he actually kept going, kept standing, had nothing left. He was completely on empty. And then comes across looking like the biggest G of them all and says, I wanted to get knocked down. Like, why didn't you knock me down? Why didn't you let me get knocked down? I'm making $100 million. Just let me.
Paulie's point is you can talk about that.
Yeah,
but he didn't showcase.
Did you feel like he quit?
I don't feel like he quit. But he also was not throwing punches back. And that's a good that's a good sign of somebody who doesn't want to be in the fight. I would never say he wanted to quit.
Did you get the sense that he was looking for a way out? Because I did not get that sense that he was looking for a way out.
But I don't think he was looking for a way in. And that's what Paulie was saying.
He had nothing left.
That's the difference. That's what Paulie is saying. When you're at that moment, you have to be looking for a way in. And I cannot confidently say Conor McGregor was.
If you watched that fight and knew nothing about Conor, knew nothing about Floyd, if you watched that fight in a vacuum, just here's a tape of two guys fighting each other, right? You knew nothing. You had never heard of these people in your life.
Yeah.
Would you think that that was Conor McGregor's boxing debut?
No. Well, that's a hard question to answer, but probably not.
The answer is no, and that is a victory.
But I also wouldn't have thought that was a Floyd Mayweather was a guy who is about to retire on top and 50-0.
Fair, although, I mean, it's hard to kind of quantify that in a fight.
But that's why I'm saying you can't quantify.
But by the way,
Conor
if I walked in there against Floyd, and of course I don't have the athletic background, martial arts background that Conor does, you would know that this was my debut in boxing.
Absolutely. Well, that's not fair. That's not fair. Conor's a fighter.
99% of the UFC fighters, why can't we give this guy his due?
No, if you're saying plug random UFC fighter in the same division as Conor McGregor in there, not the same outcome. I think Conor is very unique in that way and deserves a ton of respect for that.
My favorite part of Saturday was seeing how the MMA community, the fighters, rallied around him, and we're happy for him, and we're not jealous for the most part, and we're proud.
Everything he does brings them forward.
Yes.
Everything he does brings them forward.
Yet there is still this, from the rest of the world, and even from delusional fans, there's this unwillingness to give him his props.
It's insane. There's guys like, Stipe Miocic, Diaz. They're all asking for boxing fights, right? They all want to do boxing fights. Conor McGregor has now opened the door to make that a reality.
Yeah, and that's why
there was a time where that was only speculation, was only rumor, was only something you could use as an angle. Conor McGregor has now just entered a boxing ring against the best boxer of our lifetime and done it and made it real, made this a possibility. Everything he continues to do makes the impossible possible and is only benefiting fighters in MMA.
Yeah.
And to be honest, boxing.
Everyone.
He has benefited boxing.
And that's why I feel like he's one of the big, if not the big winner on Saturday night, because a lot more people know who he is. He gained a lot of people's respect. And I thought it was just
wow, this is perfect. Sorry, continue. I'm looking at the next question. It's absolutely perfect.
Night. It was just a great night for all involved. How
are you guys?
Rare is that? Okay, go ahead.
Are you guys surprised that some still won't give Conor any credit? Cowherd, Whitlock, Floyd Sr., Shannon Sharp come to mind.
I don't know if Cowherd's that guy. Cowherd actually, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah,
I haven't seen what they've said today, these guys. And again, you have to sometimes give them, I don't know, you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. Some people on television. Floyd Sr.'s comments I thought were a little surprising. Like, I thought it would have been nice after the fact to give him some props for landing those punches early and for hanging in there and for not embarrassing himself. But it's not really those guys. It's some of the, I have to say, I was very disappointed in RDA and Aldo.
Yeah.
RDA in particular. RDA got injured. Conor was going to fight him. Like, what are you mad about?
Here's the thing.
And Aldo.
We're now talking about both of them.
Yeah.
They've done what they needed to do.
I guess.
They have done what they needed to do. This.
Look at Holloway. Holloway is in a better position to get that fight than either of those two. Do you agree?
Yeah, but that's based on circumstance. That doesn't have to do with his tweeting.
What do you mean?
Max Holloway
could be pouring it on. Right now.
Yes, but it would have benefited him in the way that Aldo and RDA need this, and they've successfully inserted themselves into the conversation. Conor McGregor has opened tons of positive doors for fighters, but this is also something that Conor McGregor has opened the door for, is people who aren't in the line or not queued up to be next getting opportunities that they haven't deserved. And that's the reality. And Jose Aldo and RDA are not alone in thinking that this is a path to getting what they want, in talking and making their bad blood a way to get what they want. So you can give Conor McGregor all the credit in the world for opening the doors, but you can also point to him as a very major reason why this is a possibility and why they're doing what they're doing. Jose Aldo pre-Conor McGregor wouldn't be making this kind of declaration.
Yeah.
And neither would RDA. So these guys, the game of talking trash to get what you want is very much in his hands, by his hand. And so this doesn't surprise me, and I don't think there's any. I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with it.
What about?
It's not classy,
No.
but it's how you get what you want.
Grapes.
It's how you get what you want. I don't have a problem.
What about my buddy Bennett Brower on Twitter saying right now, hashtag the MMA hour, Paulie wouldn't last 8 rounds versus Conor. Book it.
I have to admit, I would think that Conor McGregor has a good shot in that fight. Now,
holy smokes.
If they release the footage and we see that full sparring session, that could definitely change my mind. Let me see it.
They're not gonna release that because now they're gonna try to book it. I mean, maybe the UFC will just release it if they have no idea or no interest, I should say, in booking that fight. But
I would not look. It's just pure facts, right? Paulie is further removed from his career than Floyd is. Paulie is never reached as high a peak as Floyd did. There's just a reality of the situation that a fight with Paulie and Conor would be more competitive than a fight with Conor and Floyd. Also, the size difference. Conor McGregor would tower over Paulie Malignaggi.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm interested.
I want to see it.
I'm interested.
Oh yeah, I want to see it.
I'd rather see Conor fight in an MMA fight in the UFC first, but I'm interested. We didn't really answer that question, but if you're not giving Conor McGregor credit for doing what he did, and Paulie asked him if he brought his balls, in my opinion, Conor took his balls out and laid them right in the middle of the ring and showed who he was.
Yeah.
If you're not impressed with what Conor McGregor did,
capital H hater.
then you're not doing this fight game right. Conor McGregor did the damn thing. Okay. Does Saturday's fight, do you think more MMA fans will watch boxing, and vice versa? Do you think more boxing fans will watch MMA? Like, will fans who followed Conor now watch Canelo and Triple G, or is that kind of a lost, is that sailed? Has that ship sailed?
I feel like, I mean, we just heard from Miles who says he wants to not only watch more, but actually train in the sweet science.
And what about people who watch boxing? Is there any way we now get them to watch a UFC fight, to even follow Conor McGregor?
Absolutely. We heard from, who do we hear from? We heard
Paulie was saying.
Oscar himself said he's going to go out and watch him fight, so that's a guy who's invested in, the rise of boxing and doesn't want MMA to do as well.
I feel like Oscar's been friendly to MMA before.
He has, but for him to say that, I think is notable.
Sure.
I think that Conor gained a lot of fans. Again, big win for the UFC, big win for WME, big win for Conor. I really don't think there's any losers here, again, except for those judges. Now, I will say, though,
I don't think it was that
Here's
bad.
the thing. Here's the most fascinating part about this. What was said, what was the narrative from the hardcore boxing community going in to this fight? What they said was this was a farce, and the real fight, the best fight, is Canelo Triple G, correct? That's the fight you need to pay money to watch. That's the fight you should take that $100, not give it to that fight, the Mayweather McGregor fight, and save it for Triple G Canelo, which will be cheaper. That's what they said. Well, guess what? Guess who has all the damn pressure in the world on their shoulders? Guess who has to deliver? Guess who has to step to the plate? And historically, boxing doesn't do that when the eyes of the world are on them. Now, I've been saying I've been saying all year that boxing is having a better year than MMA. I love boxing. I have been watching boxing longer than MMA. And I have, in my heart, no doubt that fight is going to deliver. And I will gladly pay to watch those two who are phenomenal. I love watching Triple G. I love watching Canelo. I will gladly pay to watch that fight. And I think it's ridiculous. I think it's short-sighted. I think it's a massive mistake for the UFC to book Luke Rockhold's return on the same night as that fight. But if that fight fails to deliver, holy smokes, what will they say then?
I don't see any way that fight fails to deliver. I just can't imagine it. Those are in my opinion, the two best right now. Like, these are the guys I want to see. I can't imagine. But you're right. The pressure is all on there. But to be honest, once they get your money, there's no pressure. The fight's already sold. You got the pay-per-views. People are going to buy Triple G and Canelo. If it doesn't deliver, then what?
Mayweather
McGregor. We say, ha.
Mayweather McGregor is going to be talked about until September 17th. And it will be talked about long after. But it's going to remain in the ether, in the news cycle until that fight happens, because that's the fight. Look, go
Sure.
Sports Illustrated again. Greg Bishop wrote a great article, but he's comparing the two. It's about the two fights. And if somehow, some way, Mayweather McGregor, which I thought was very entertaining, did you feel otherwise?
No, absolutely entertaining. Floyd's best fight in years.
Riveting. I felt like if I blinked, I was going to miss something. If that somehow is more entertaining than Triple G Canelo, what will they say?
But I don't think they'll say anything. I don't think they'll care.
We'll say
Who's
something.
going to say?
We'll say something.
Who's going to say anything?
We'll say something.
What, the MMA world's going to say, ha, Conor McGregor, our UFC hero.
I'll say that. Why not?
Nah, who cares?
No, because that's what everyone said, including Oscar. This is the better fight. Save your money for that fight. This is not like everyone wants to be like, oh, you're a Conor fanboy. No, I'm okay with giving credit where it's due. He brought out the best in Floyd. Floyd fought a great fight, a fantastic fight, a great game plan, finished him, did everything he had to do. And that was because of Conor.
But this is now easy for us to say in hindsight.
It's not in hindsight.
It is in hindsight. That fight is over.
MMA media,
and it was a good fight.
The MMA media treated that boxing match, I stress the word boxing, as more sport than spectacle on the whole, correct? We went all in.
They had more
The boxing
to win.
media did not do that.
They had more to win.
This was a boxing match.
Boxing had more to lose.
This was a boxing match. This was a historic boxing match. This was 50-0. And we treated it as the outsiders as more sport than spectacle.
Because MMA is now getting a seat at the big boy table.
Screw the big boy table. We're doing just fine. We had 214. We had 200.
MMA had everything to win and nothing to lose. And boxing had everything to lose.
To a degree, yes. All the pressure I thought, but if they walked in there, if Conor walked in there and got knocked down in 10 seconds, we would be hearing it. I heard it with him losing in the 10th round. I had people like Amin Al-Hassan getting all worked up about it. Listen, the point is, the UFC guy went in there, and whether he wants to take credit or not, went in there and lasted 30 minutes with arguably the greatest of all time. And it is okay.
Who was trying to take his head off, by the way?
And it is okay to say afterwards, well, okay, we saw it, but how long would Floyd last with him? Why is that not okay in an octagon? Why is that not okay? Why is it not okay to bring that up? We saw it with Tony and Couture, but that was different. Two same guys. Will we ever see that? Will we ever see the MMA guy go to boxing and make all that money in their sport, and then the boxing guy return the favor? The same two guys. Will we see that?
No, never. We won't.
What does that say?
Yeah, listen, when this fight was first announced, I thought the best thing Conor McGregor could do is walk in there and kick Floyd Mayweather's head off his body and tell him, yeah, I lost, but what are you going to do about it? Why don't you come fight me and do something about it? Because the reality is, in a fight, not a boxing match, but in a fight, whether it's MMA, whether it's on the street, whatever it is, in a fight, Conor McGregor wins that fight 100 times out of 100. There's not a situation I can think of where Floyd Mayweather wins that fight. So if you're saying there's any circumstance where a boxer gets into a fight, whether it's in the octagon, whether it's outside, whether it's, down the road, there's no chance I'm picking the boxer. We've seen, now circumstances are different. We've seen what happened. Randy Couture picked James Toney up by his ankle and ended that quickly. But we're getting away from the idea that you can still, I think there was a lot to gain for MMA, and Conor McGregor successfully did that, as he tends to do when it's time to step up to the plate. He does, and he elevates the sport. But there was a lot on the line for Floyd.
Sure.
There was a lot of pressure.
There was more pressure on Floyd. There's no doubt about it. He had to, what's it like going around having everyone say to you, you're going to win in 30 seconds. He's not going to land a punch. You have to put out a virtuoso, masterful performance after 2 years away at 40 years old. There was a lot of pressure on Floyd. And for the most part, I thought he delivered. But there was equally pressure on MMA if he would have lost in 30 seconds and embarrassed himself. And what did he end up doing? He ended up exceeding expectations and gaining the respect from the George Foremans and the Lennox Lewises and his contemporaries in MMA who always try to put him down for the most part. And so that's why I feel like this was a victory. Who could have predicted
Absolutely
that?
a victory.
Who could have predicted a victory for all? And that's the beautiful thing about this fight, because that rarely ever happens. Ever.
I'm excited about Triple G Canelo. I think it's going to be
Yeah, and it's okay to be excited about both.
Do you think Conor is coming back to MMA a more dangerous fighter after lessons he learned in fighting Floyd? I guess the question is, do you think Conor's... Now he's spent a very large amount of time training only his boxing, I imagine. I hope he wasn't, training grappling. Is this going to help him in his game? Or is there a possibility that it might affect him in a negative way? Has he been focusing too much on one thing?
I don't know if it really changes anything. I'd love to see him come back to MMA. That is his bread and butter. That is what he's best at. That is where he became a 2-division champion, not just in the UFC, but in Cage Warriors as well. So I want to see the best compete where they are at their best. That's why when Jordan went out and played baseball, it was cool, but you wanted to eventually see him come back to the Bulls. This is the same thing. I want to see him come back to mixed martial arts.
Baseball.
What?
I said Jordan in
baseball.
It
was weird.
Ugh.
It was weird. And my kids love watching Space Jam for some reason, so I relive it all the time because the beginning was all about the baseball thing.
In the baseball,
And so I want to see him come back to MMA. I want to see just how good he is. And by the way, I want to see him defend that lightweight title. It's time. If he doesn't come back to MMA soon and defend that title, he should be stripped. He should be.
Yeah, unlike with the featherweight situation, this one feels endlessly appropriate.
But by the way, I go back to that show after he was stripped. I said I didn't like how they did it. I didn't like why they did it, but they were in their right to do it. I didn't like the execution, but they were in their right. If you don't defend a belt, I've said this countless times, and it applies to everyone, including Conor. I believe if you don't have a fight booked or are about to come back and defend your title within a year, you should be stripped. And so I'd like to see him fight, or at least have a fight booked by November 12th, I think it was. I would like to see that happen. So I'd like to see him come back to MMA now.
Yeah, it's time. And
people say like, he can't go back to MMA because he won't make that money. Trust me.
No.
Trust me, that money is available. The UFC has just been getting away with not paying that money. But money is available to someone who is as important as he is.
That also supposes that he can get that money somewhere else. Conor McGregor is all about making that money. That supposes that money isn't available with the UFC, but it's available somewhere else. And the reality is this is something you can do one time. Maybe Paulie Malignaggi, but you can't keep doing this. Conor McGregor has to be back in the UFC, and he'll make a lot of money doing it. What would you rather see? Conor versus Tony Ferguson or Kevin Lee, or Conor versus Nate Diaz?
So the issue with Tony Lee...
Let me ask one question first. Did this fight change any of that? Like, is there any impact based on this that affects who you'd rather see him up against? Not really, right?
No. The issue with the Tony Lee fight is that it's October 7th. And by the way, still no announced main event for that. And what are we? Almost a month away, which is crazy. Will they be able to turn around? Yeah, I mean, if no one gets injured, I don't see... I mean, they're not going to pass up that money. Especially if Tony wins, you can make a case that he's the number one contender. So I'd be down to see that. I think the Diaz fight sells the most. I think the Diaz fight is the biggest spectacle. I think the Diaz fight is the biggest deal. That brings out the most amount of media. Tony and Lee, unfortunately for them, just don't have that, they don't have that name, that stature. Although I think Kevin Lee would be a very fun build-up. A Kevin Lee-Conor fight. I think a Tony-Conor fight would be a fun build-up as well. I have a feeling, though, given where we are with WME, given their decision-making, that the one that they're going to go for is Diaz. And I was told that that's the fight that, before going into it was the one that had the best chance of happening. I asked him about it. He's non-committal. He's got all the options in the world. But it seems like that's the fight that they're most interested in at this point. Would I like to see him against some fresh blood? Yeah.
I want to see him defend the belt.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be mad. Look, if you're going to give me Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, I'm not going to be mad about it. Going back to what we talked about earlier with RDA and Aldo, though, can you imagine a situation where Diaz or Tony Ferguson or Kevin Lee don't shit on Conor McGregor for his foray into boxing? That's why I'm okay with this. Like, you're trying to sell a fight.
Yeah,
can you imagine a scenario where they're not going to shit all over him in the lead up to that? I guarantee it happens.
Fair. And I think Kevin Lee did as well, right?
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's just inevitable. But that's why Conor is different, because he can take that. He'll fire. First of all, he'll fire back with some of his own barbs.
He doesn't need us to defend him.
But he's also going to make that irrelevant come time that it's time to walk to the ring. Okay. Why do you think the UFC and Dana, in particular, this person's saying Dana, doesn't try to work with the Diaz brothers and refuse to acknowledge Nate's star power?
It is weird. I guess
let's, why is Nate not talked about more? Like, why is his name brought into the conversation?
By the way, Nick Diaz apparently lives in New York now.
What's that?
Yeah. Go look at his Instagram. He's in New York. And I asked him, and he's like, yeah, I'm hanging out here. I'm like, all right, cool. Come by the studio. He's not a New York kind of guy.
And Nate is not.
No, Nate is not. Nate, from my understanding, could not get tickets to the fight and somehow just appeared and ended up in the locker room afterwards.
Look, when you're Nate Diaz, you walk up to that gate. They know who you are.
Yeah, he even took a picture on the red carpet.
They know who you are.
What a guy. He is prolific. It is weird. I think that this particular issue stems from the negotiations after 200. I think, this is my hypothesis, that when Conor failed to show up to that press conference and Nate sat there and took Conor's side, that really pissed them off. And then when they offered him the fight again for August, he's like, nah, that's the 200 contract that you're giving me. I want a 202 contract, meaning this fight is even bigger now. You need to pay me more. And I think that that's where the issues stem from. I think that, as Nate said on the show, when he was on that show back in May, they tried to book the Tony fight. I think Nate was holding out for the Conor fight. And I think now's the time to strike. I think now's the time for him to go on the offensive and get that fight.
Isn't it in their best interest to promote him if they're going to promote that fight?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they don't, maybe they don't feel like he is promotable, like he doesn't play ball with them. I don't know. But they need to do a better job. I mean, if there's anything that we learned about this whole process is the UFC needs to do a better job of pushing the individuals. That's why I don't like the Reebok deal. That's why I don't like that they watered down the personalities, that they don't look at Saturday night. Look at what Conor's team wore. The vests, the ties, everyone.
Yes, everybody.
No. Don't talk about how it looked. Just look at what they wore. They stood out. They were a topic of conversation. I don't care about if you thought it was stupid or not. And then look at what Floyd wore. The mask. Everyone was talking about that. The fight game is about personalities. The fight game is about being unique. It's about carving out your own niche. In fact, someone just sent me a picture on Twitter, twitter.com, MMAFighting.twitter.com. Someone just sent me a picture right now. Here it is. This is from Robbie Ryan. He said, what are the UFC marketing team doing wrong? Anthony Joshua, 1.4 million followers. Stipe Miocic, 114,000 followers. Canelo Alvarez, 1 million followers. Max Holloway, 81,000 followers. Gennady Golovkin, 423,000 followers. Tyron Woodley, 151,000 followers. They don't do a good enough job of building up the personalities. These guys are their own promoters. These guys work with promoters hand in hand to build themselves up. Canelo with Oscar De La Hoya, they all have their own guys. Bob Arum has his crew. Top Rank has their crew. Floyd has his guys. Like Tank Davis, we know about him more. Badu Jack, we know about him more. They don't do a good enough job of selling the individual, and that's, we saw that on Saturday. They have to do a better job of that.
I agree with that, but I find it hard to pin that on them.
What?
These guys have their teams. The boxers have their teams. That means the fighters should have their teams. The UFC fighters should have their teams. The reality is it's an economics thing.
But you have to play by the rules. You have to play, yes. Should every fighter who's making enough money, remember,
that's why it's not a fair comparsion. That's all I'm saying. You can't say this guy has these millions of followers and this guy has these hundreds of thousands. We're talking about the champions
in the respective weight classes.
The UFC has a roster to manage. They have all these guys. Bob Arum has this guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever the case may be. He's got more than that,
but yes, he doesn't have 500.
He doesn't have the roster. He can take the time to focus on the fighters that he needs to promote. I'm not
saying that you need to go out there and promote, Joe Blow, 46th ranked featherweight, but the creme de la creme?
Sure. I don't disagree with you on that premise, but I don't think it's fair to compare this guy has this many million followers.
You have 11 champions. Promote them. And the number one contenders, promote 22. Here's the point. Here was one of the biggest revelations of the past week. Dana White was phenomenal in the build-up. Dana White was phenomenal.
Yes.
People don't like to hear me give him props. People say I don't give enough props. No, I'll give props when it's due. Dana White was phenomenal in the build-up. He promoted Conor, his guy, and promoted the fight in doing so. But that was the best of Dana White. That was the best Dana White we've seen in years because he was doing it like a boxing promoter. He was promoting his guy. You don't have to be that biased in the sense that saying like, oh, DJ's going to knock out Ray Borg. I mean, that's disrespectful.
Yeah,
but you could still promote. You could still go out and say DJ's the best fighter on planet Earth. Athlete, breaking records. He doesn't do that. He won't do that.
There was a time.
Yeah, that's why I said it's the best we've seen in years.
You know, Henan Barao is the great. Like,
absolutely,
he was on that wagon.
But something changed.
I find it difficult. If you pick those, champions, those 11 champions, then the other fighters go, well, why are you not doing that for me? It's a very difficult.
Get a belt. Get a belt. Things will change.
Okay,
and by the way, they do go out of their way sometimes. Witness the fact that Conor got his own championship walkout when he was about to fight Max Holloway. Paige gets, promoted up the wazoo. Sage gets...
Yeah, Francis Ngannou is now everybody's sweetheart.
Now, but the problem is they pick them wrong. They have a tendency to pick them wrong. They pick them based on looks. They pick these young fighters who, but now they're getting behind Kevin Lee. Great. Push that guy to the moon. Get him out there. Have him fight in Detroit. Do the right kind of media for him. Tyron Woodley, push him. Stipe, push him. That's all.
I'm with you. I think it's more difficult than boxing. I think boxing is able to be singularly focused, and it is a little bit different. Do you think Conor's reception? What do you think Conor's reception will be like at the next time he's at a UFC press conference? Essentially, does Conor now become a hero to MMA because he represented well?
1,000%. He's more popular today than he was 2 days ago. He's more popular today than he was last Monday. He is the biggest star in the UFC and MMA, and you can argue he's now in that LeBron stratosphere.
Let me ask you something. I see a lot more talk about Conor McGregor, maybe it's because I'm inside the bubble, than Floyd Mayweather. Is this because we're not sure Floyd is walking away? Do you think it's because people are not sure of that?
I think that Floyd has reached his limit. I think that he doesn't want to fight, and I believe the public doesn't really care to see him fight anymore. 15-0.
So then why are we not talking about this guy right now,
Floyd,
the day after?
Because Floyd is first of all, we're an MMA show, and I think that
that's what I'm saying. I'm speaking very generally. I feel like I haven't seen enough about Floyd as opposed to Conor.
Well, because Conor was the one going in there and hung in with him, etc.
Sure.
But I also feel like people have this complicated relationship with Floyd. For example, he has a very checkered past. He has
his personal things in his life.
Polarizing, controversial, despicable. I mean, you could use any synonym. Even when I did that interview at the Girl Collection,
he said some.
But people are like, "Well, why didn't you?" There's a time and a place, and B, it wasn't necessarily about that. But yes, I feel that way about him. Like I don't think that. That's why I always like to stress how great of a boxer he is, not how great of a person. Now, to me personally, in the build-up, this is my first time ever covering him. He couldn't have been better to the media. This man knows how to work a room. This man, he's accessible like I've never seen. Like he stands there and answers questions thoughtfully, but that doesn't take away anything that he did. I think that people have a complicated relationship with him. I'm pretty sure in that interview, it may have been another time, but in that particular interview, I asked him about why he doesn't get talked about like other athletes, why he doesn't get revered like other athletes, why he doesn't get the endorsement deals that other athletes do. And I just feel like people have this weird relationship with him, A, because of the past, and B, because they feel like he doesn't deliver. Because over the past, 8-9 years, his fights have been relatively dull. And then it was, there was a point of exclamation on the Pacquiao fight. It completely underdelivered. And then he rebounds with a very dull Andre Berto fight. And that's why I go back to the fact that Conor actually did him a great service, that Conor actually sent him off into the sunset with a finish, with a knockout, with an exciting fight. And that will stay with him forever. And I think that that's why he actually owes Conor a debt of gratitude. So people have a complicated relationship with him, but I actually feel like this fight is going to linger and help him a little bit. It won't take away all the other stuff, but a little bit as now people are talking about him on this Monday morning.
But now we're sitting here, at the end of his career as a boxer, look, I have all kinds of problems with what he's done in his personal life, but I am willing to, if we are going to buy his pay-per-views, if we are going to support the product, which I am willing to buy that product. I'm able to separate those two things when I talk about him. Would he be somebody I'd want to hang out with? No. As a boxer, the guy is 50-0, having taken very little damage throughout his career, and has one of the greatest resumes, one of the best legacies of all time in boxing. And it seems like we're barely discussing that.
I think that he's getting his props for the most part, but this wasn't just Floyd versus.
Here's how I think about it: when a above average NBA player steps away, Kobe Bryant stepping away, we go on tours. There's people giving him this. There's people giving him that. When Derek Jeter steps away, there's people giving him this. There's people giving him that. Floyd Mayweather at this point seems to be like, unless something changes, he's going to be riding off into the sunset.
Nothing of the life safety system.
They didn't like what I was saying about Floyd.
Any audible or visual alarms you may hear or see.
Well, thanks, guys.
I repeat, we have routine tests of the life safety.
Okay, just fight through it.
Please disregard any audible
Okay, please don't.
or visual alarms.
Just please don't do that test while we're on the air. Thanks.
Thank you.
They're going to do it.
Okay.
But don't they know that the MMA hour is on right
Yeah.
now? I mean,
I-
6 p.m., nobody's out of here. by
I
6
feel like someone's trying to tell us to wrap up. I got more hours in me.
Anyway, I don't know. I think Floyd probably deserves more credit as a boxer than he's getting at the moment.
I agree.
The Corona girls. We have to address
What?
this because everybody was asking about this. The Corona girls.
Yes.
King wants to know what was up with the girls standing in the back of the post-fight press conference and in every shot in the ring. Now, we've seen the Corona girls at every boxing event. This is not anything new.
Sure.
But the idea that they were shifting themselves to be in every single shot was a new one. Oh, did you might have said you didn't see the broadcast, right?
I didn't see the broadcast.
Okay, so the Corona girls, are typically in the ring. They present the belts. They do all those things. We know this. This is a staple of boxing. But every time the camera turned, they were repositioning themselves to be in the shot. Not just stationary at the focal point of where the camera is going to be, but they were literally walking and keeping these smiles on that was making people feel
They work their butts
uncomfortable.
off, those women.
Oh,
way more than
they
the
were
UFC Octagon girls. Like, they have to show up at the press conference afterwards.
Starting beef over here.
I want to see a ring go face off. No, I mean they really work hard. They're standing there. It's a lot of hard work to be standing there.
But this was a very unique one. If you didn't see it, there's you just have to see it. It was creepy. It looked like the Burger King.
No, I liked it.
They were just getting into every shot with
They like to
with the creepy smiles.
I went to. They really like to utilize the ring girls in boxing. I went to this press conference on Saturday morning for the Top Rank ESPN deal, which was a lot of fun.
Right.
And I saw my old friend Bob Arum. First time I've seen him since our interview at Yankee Stadium. And this thing, man,
Skinheads.
They pull out all the stops. We walk into the Wynn in this theater, and they're holding smoothies like in these nice glasses and watermelon juice, and there's fountains and there's breakfast, and the ring girls are there, the Top Rank ring girls. Like, they just bring them to everything. I don't know. They don't do that in MMA. And to stand there and smile and have that kind of composure, I give them a lot of credit. They work. Not to say that the UFC ring girls don't, but they have to work. That's work. Respect. Don't try to degrade them. Don't try to take away anything from them.
Who are you talking to?
The public. Joking.
No, they're not trying to degrade them. They were
Mock them.
Anyway, you got to see it.
All right.
Okay, we need to talk about this.
Okay.
To this point, the UFC has not
Oh,
come out with anything about fans who purchased the fight and had issues with the stream. What do you make of all this?
I reached out to them. No word back. I reached out to Fight Pass. No word back. Very disappointed to hear this. It's a major faux pas. In fact, I think our own Danny Segura paid $100 to watch it on Fight Pass.
Oh,
there he is.
damn.
Oh, he's there? Tell us what happened, Danny. Quickly tell us what happened. Can you tell us? I mean, this is a firsthand account.
All right, so
What happened, Danny? Tell us.
I end up paying for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
$100.
Go closer to the mic.
Honest man. I was an honest man. Paid my pay-per-view, and when I went to go look at the link, the site crashed. Then it signed me out, so I'm like, okay. So I signed back in, And then when I went to watch the pay-per-view, it was asking me to pay another $100.
What?
Yeah, so that was pretty disappointing. So end up paying $100, but didn't watch the fight, but did watch it through not an illegal stream. So
Okay, but Danny, but I mean that's not the only person that we heard from. People were hitting me up all night, and they've said nothing, right?
Not yet.
no, not yet. I mean, they did put out a statement that they were gonna try to resolve the issue shortly. But then everybody was complaining on it, and I didn't see anything else after that. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of issues with it, and a lot of people were complaining. But some other people like that also order it through UFC Fight Pass. I saw apparently like their stream was working, so I don't know.
This guy right here.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Who?
I ordered it through Fight Pass and it was working fine.
Now, why wouldn't you order it via pay-per-view? Oh, you don't have cable?
I don't have.
I don't have.
See, you cord cutters, you millennials,
I didn't suffer any ill effects.
came back
I
to
watched
bite
it
you in the
perfectly
butt.
Fine.
Now there's a class action lawsuit happening. You hear about this? Class action lawsuit from customers unhappy because of streaming
out of
issues towards Showtime. Thank you, Danny, for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Portland boxing fan Zach Bartel paid to stream the fight in high definition. Says that he saw grainy video, error screens, buffer events, stalls. Bartel is suing, this is according to the Hollywood Reporter, suing Showtime for unlawful trade practices and unjust enrichment, alleging the network rushed its pay-per-view streaming service to the market without securing the bandwidth necessary to support the scores of cable-cutting fans. Now, this is Showtime. You guys are talking about UFC Fight Pass. Will the same happen to Fight Pass? Will they get a lawsuit? I mean, they owe everyone their money back. That's for certain. But that's a huge bummer. I heard from many fans who were texting me, fighters texting me saying, I'm trying to buy this pay-per-view. I can't do it. What a debacle. And that's why I said this could have turned into a massive disaster for everyone involved. It was void of any energy, overpriced the tickets, empty sections, stalling. I thought the entrances were botched. Like it was too quick. Didn't feel big. Lights, all that stuff, but then the fight happened and the fight saved it. Who would have thought? So we'll see what happens with this.
It's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. I feel for everyone.
I was able to order it through Fight Pass, no problem. I've heard some people have had some success getting refunds through iTunes if you ordered it through Fight Pass, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I have heard that though, because my receipt came from iTunes when I ordered it on Fight Pass. But I ordered it; it was no issue, and I feel bad for those that didn't get what they paid
I really
for.
feel bad for them for sure.
Okay. Paulie, any chance he gets into the octagon?
Well, I asked him this question. He said no. So let's move along.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that
But
he
it's telling, right?
I don't think there's any chance that he or any other boxer
anytime
steps in.
soon.
Not with a Conor McGregor. I think the same way Conor, stepped up and took on the best of the best. I don't think the same comparison could happen for a boxer coming into MMA. It'd be very difficult.
According to Darren Ravel just now, the biggest bet on Mayweather has just been cashed. Better bet 1.21 million, netted 242,000 at William Hill U.S. Sportsbook.
Don't come asking me for any of it. It's already in my bank account.
Dang.
Does Paulie have X-Pac heat?
I disagree.
It's a question. So you're saying no?
No, I say I disagree.
He's not saying that he says Paulie has X-Pac heat.
No, I
He's
disagree
asking.
with anyone who says he does. Like our friend Ant Evans has been perpetuating this myth that Paulie has X-Pac heat. I think Paulie is one of the best analysts. Give him credit for staying unbiased, right? Was he unbiased on the broadcast?
He was fantastic on the
Right?
broadcast.
Told it like it is.
If you weren't watching the broadcast, if you were there or had a different stream, Paulie is very, very good as an analyst, like amazingly good, and was able to break down the fight in a way that made it super easy to understand what was really happening.
Yeah.
Didn't let any of the personal stuff that he's got with Conor McGregor at the moment bleed into it. Absolutely flawless on the broadcast. Best part of it.
Yet before and after, he has said a lot. Showtime kept him. Ended up being the right call. But hey, now I want to see. I want to see it. Now I'm not saying I want to see it more than Nate, more than Tony, more than Kevin Lee, more than Max, more than Habib. But if you're asking me, are you interested at any point to see these two in the near future? Yes, the answer is yes.
Does Paulie have a contract with anybody in boxing?
He's an Al Heyman guy.
Yeah, Mayweather Promotions promotes Conor McGregor versus Paulie Malignaggi. I'll watch it.
Imagine.
Stylistic. How about this? Are there any MMA fighters that you would like to see in a boxing match?
Okay,
Yep.
can we all agree if we're going to see that fight, why not do, a series. One MMA, one boxing. Why not? Why not?
We know the answer to that.
Why not? Let's just see it.
We know
Let's
the
just
answer.
see it.
We know.
We
the
all
answer.
thought we knew the answer to the. Everyone said if a boxer.
I knew the answer, and this played out exactly as I thought it would.
Everyone said if a boxer went to MMA, they get smoked. If that same fighter went to boxing to fight that same boxer, he gets smoked. Well, guess what? He didn't get smoked. He lost in 10 rounds. He lost via knockout, but he didn't embarrass
That
himself.
not smoked?
He didn't get smoked.
He got knocked out
2-round
by a guy
knockout
who it
is
takes
smoked.
a decade to get a
3-round knockout is smoked. No, listen, I believe at times Floyd just doesn't go aggressively because he wants to win boring
Yeah,
decisions.
so that
This time he did.
says is he didn't respect Conor's power and went aggressively and knocked him out.
That's your
would
opinion. That's a hypothesis. You don't know what he respected or didn't respect.
Look,
those.
Conor did better than
If
expected.
he didn't respect his opinion, if he didn't respect his power, why didn't he finish him in one round? Why didn't he finish him in one round if he didn't respect
because
his
he
power?
wasn't tired.
Why didn't he respect? If he didn't respect his power, why didn't he finish him in one round?
Conor wasn't tired yet.
BS.
What do you mean?
He respects his
He
power.
finished him because no, he didn't respect his power. He waited forward in rounds 5 through 10 with zero regard for Conor's punches. Zero. You can definitely say that Conor did better than expected, but you cannot say that that wasn't a one-sided fight.
It wasn't. He won 3 rounds. In my opinion, won 4. How could that be one-sided? 6-4.
No. Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
What? How can you say that? He won the first 3 rounds. Don't give me this whole like, oh, he'd let him. No, he did. He had to. Those rounds could have ended up being, one landed punch. One punch landed. If Floyd did nothing and landed one punch, he could have won those rounds if Conor was whiffing and completely out of sorts. But that didn't happen.
No, it was never in doubt.
Anyway,
there's a difference between exceeding expectations and the fantasy. He didn't put Floyd in trouble.
stop it.
Jon Jones. We haven't really talked about this.
Yeah, how crazy is
the
that?
other breaking news of last week. Do we have any, what are your thoughts on it? What's there left to say?
Listen, at this point, let's just wait for the B sample. If you don't want to believe him anymore, I think in this case you have every right, because I do feel like you have X amount of benefits of the doubt, if you get what I'm saying. I think that Jon Jones owes Conor a debt of gratitude as well, because he took the spotlight completely away from him. If that news comes out tomorrow, we're doing a whole show on that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, he kind of dodged a bullet there. I thought his tweet was, you saw the tweet last night, right?
Yeah, I did.
This is his first comment, right?
Yep.
What did the tweet say? The tweet said, since
bring it
we're on
up. Hold
Twitter,
on.
we might as well read it. The tweet said, and I quote, "Times like these remind me how blessed I truly am. So much to be grateful for." Like, is that not tone deaf?
I'll give him
To
this.
all my supporters, thank you
Yeah.
for the support. Thank you for having my back. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for not writing me off. The truth will prevail. The truth will come out. I am not a cheater. I'm
Well,
blessed
no.
and have
I don't
things to be grateful for. That's your first comment?
agree with everything up until the I am not a cheater. I don't think it's in his best interest to really address the situation head on.
Why not?
But to thank his
If
supporters.
you're not a cheater, then why not?
No, it's the same. In court, even if you're not guilty, you can't just go out saying all kinds of things that can sway the ruling. But I agree with you. Thanking your supporters, talking about the people who have stuck with you, all of that is the number one thing.
Tone deaf, man. It's tone deaf.
Yeah.
Like I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm not calling you a cheater. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. I want to believe that you are who you are. And I said it on the Monday after that, he put his money where his mouth is, that his actions backed his words. But now, what do we say about this? I don't know anymore.
There's nothing. I mean, even if Jon Jones
surreal.
beats
It was
this,
surreal when we got the news, right?
even if Jon Jones beats this rap, his legacy is forever.
And by the way, reckless is still a crime. Being reckless is still a crime. If you're going to say that you didn't know,
Well,
like you should have been extra careful this time. This is the time. You already got the punishment. You already had your career paused. You already lost money. You already had your reputation ruined. You already had to back out of that fight. How did you put yourself in this position if you didn't mean to do it?
It's very difficult.
And why doesn't it happen to anyone else?
Yeah.
Why doesn't it happen to DC? Why doesn't it happen to Tyron Woodley or Chris Weidman or DJ?
It's very difficult to.
It's frustrating.
to back
'Cause
that.
He's so damn good. I agree with DC. He didn't need any of this. This shouldn't have happened. He was the greatest. He is the greatest. His resume speaks for itself. His victories speak for themselves.
It does. He got so many reprieves. He got so many reprieves to the point where even up until this, right after this fight, up until the news broke that this was a thing, he had the benefit of the doubt from everybody. Even after all the mistakes in his personal life and even the testing, he had it. Everybody was still saying Jon Jones is the best and he's back and we can move on from this. Now, I don't think that he will be granted that same respect, no matter what happens with the.
Let's see with the B sample.
Result.
We'll see. That's what they're pinning on.
Even if it comes back, hey, it was tainted, whatever. I don't think he will get the benefit of the doubt from anybody anymore. Let's go.
One more.
Yes. What do they do? Here's a question from Hey Archer.
My man.
UFC, should they do a tournament for the belt? What do you think should happen to the belt? Does it go to Daniel Cormier? Do they have to put it on the line? What should happen to that belt?
This is unique. It's never happened before. If the result is going to be a no contest, shouldn't it have to go back to Cormier?
I think so.
Why should he have to fight someone with the belt vacated if the fight now is no longer a loss? If something would have happened where the fight turned into a no contest on Saturday night, July 29th, right?
He would have kept the belt.
So why should
that's my thought as well. I think Daniel Cormier should get the belt back.
He should get the belt back.
And you can still do a light heavyweight tournament. It could still be just as fun. You have one guy versus DC and two other guys squaring off, and then the winner meets up. You don't need the belt to be dangling for that to be the case. So I think DC deserves the belt. There's no doubt about it.
I agree.
Okay, that was it. You said one more? That was one more. Oh, no, we have to hit this. I'm sorry. Okay. We have to do this.
What?
Snoop Dogg.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Particularly disrespectful to Conor McGregor. Yes. But there's been an outcry of a few MMA fighters. I know Matt Brown in particular has been very vocal about it.
I'm happy you brought this up.
What do we think about Snoop Dogg being in this position and the fighters being, less than pleased about his commentary?
There is not an intense amount of pressure on the UFC to change this, and he is a very small part of their machine. He is the alternate color analyst for Dana White's Contender Series. There is a small amount of pressure within the UFC roster community to change this now, because it's the second time that he's been disrespectful towards a UFC fighter. First time Daniel Cormier, second time Conor McGregor, two of the biggest names, by the way. But I believe that if the UFC continues to employ Snoop Dogg, if the UFC remains in the Snoop Dogg business on their broadcasts, that they are telling their fighters that they don't respect them. Here's a guy who's getting a paycheck from Zuffa, from the UFC, who, by the way, has done a great job on the Contender Series alongside Uriah Faber, who has brought them some attention. The experiment worked. I also thought that the idea was great. As I said on the show, it was the alternate. Why not have a little fun? Don't take yourself so seriously. But if you're going to have a guy in that position act like that towards people who step in the cage or ring, you are telling your fighters that you truly don't respect them. It has now reached a point where it's insulting and disrespectful towards the entire roster. And in my opinion, it's more important to have their respect than to remain in the Snoop Dogg business. He has crossed the line now, in my opinion. If Kenny Florian or Dan Hardy or Daniel Cormier or Brian Stan, when he was working for them, if Joe Rogan would say something like that, I would say the exact same thing. He doesn't have the same position, and they've been lenient in the past towards Joe Rogan and other people who have said some things about other people. But to act like that, to me, is telling the rest of your roster that you truly do not respect them and only care about being in the Snoop Dogg business, the entertainment business, the clicks business, rather than being in the respect business of your... And you want to be respected. You want to have their respect. The ball's in their court. He has forced their hand. Do I think they'll do anything? Probably not. Should they do something? 100%. It's disrespectful. Does Conor care? No. Does Cormier care? No. No one cares. But we should care. Those of us who care about these fighters, who respect these fighters, who want to see these fighters succeed and know what they put on the line every time they fight and know how dangerous this sport is, they do not deserve to be berated by a rapper, by a celebrity, by an actor, by a hip-hop guy, by an artist, especially one who is making money off the UFC, who's getting paid to be an analyst for UFC events. That rubs me the wrong way. I love Snoop Dogg. He's an icon. He is one of the greatest ever. But you could take your MMA hot takes and, stick them elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I was all for the experiment. Like, I thought the idea of alternate commentary was super cool, but not if it's going to turn into this.
That's it? Busy
it.
weekend coming up in the world of MMA. We've got Invicta. Are you going to that?
I am.
Lemoore, California. How about that?
Thursday night, Tachi Palace.
Yeah, LFA on Friday. Oh, that's a Thursday card. I like that.
Thursday,
You see, Invicta on Thursday to me is a good day. One on Saturday and also UFC Rotterdam on Saturday as well. A lot of people were saying to me, please, Ariel, get me excited for UFC Rotterdam. What am I, your promoter? It's not my job to get you excited. Volkov against Stefan Struve. How about this selling point? Tallest fight in UFC history. Does that do it for you? CR Bahadurzada returning. Brian Barberina against Leon Edwards, CR against Rob Wilkinson, and Talita de Oliveira against Marion Renault. So it appears as though that's the replacement for Jermaine Durandamy. It's a tough one to sell, especially after this weekend, and especially after the first fight in Rotterdam, which had Overeem and Gunnar Nelson, Struve and Bigfoot and Arlovsky. I mean, it's just a tough one. It's not a great second showing, but there are some great fighters on the prelims, by the way. No bigger prospect than Zabit Magomed Sharipov, who our friend Mark Henry has been telling me all about for like 2 years now, saying that he's going to be a future champion. He's fighting Mike Santiago, late replacement as well. Desmond Green against Rustam Khabilov is a good fight. Darren Till is on the card. Maribek Taisumov. So there's something there for you. It starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's on Fight Pass, and then the main card on Fight Pass as well at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And, oh, by the way, last thing before we go, we are off on Monday. It is Labor Day here in the United States. We're back on Tuesday. So Tuesday, what day is that? September 5th. Tuesday, September 5th. Labor Day, September 4th. My brother David's birthday. I'm going to Montreal. It's my sister's wedding on the 3rd. 4th is Labor Day. We're back on the 5th on Tuesday next week. So please plan accordingly. I feel like I've given you enough. You've heard my voice enough. You probably need a break from me at this point. Thank you very much, New York Rick. Thank you very much to everyone in the back. You can hit my music. And thank you to Aubrey, who stepped in on somewhat short notice to replace Rob, the director, and did a phenomenal job. Maybe the greatest job in the history of debuts on this program. So kudos to her and everyone back there. And thank you once again to the team who produced the show out in Vegas. Adam, Paige, Scott, and Rob, who's on vacation. Thank you very much to all of you. I know this isn't a popular thing to say. I will miss Mayweather McGregor. I will miss talking about it. I thought, as far as the media goes, the MMA media, I thought it brought the best out in us. I thought it was a lot of fun. Were there low moments? Yes. Were there cringeworthy moments? Yes. But overall, I'll enjoy it every step of the way, even getting pulled from Showtime, because I feel like it made it better for me. I got to go out there and do our thing right here, my home, MMA fighting, MMA hour on the road. Loved it. It was an honor. It was a privilege. It was memorable. I won't forget it. And now I'm curious as to what is next for Conor McGregor. That's the question everyone wanted to know. They wanted that answer leading up. Well, now we are here. What is next for him? Fascinating time in the world of combat sports. Fascinating time in the world of the UFC. Fascinating time in the world of one Conor McGregor. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you very much to Oscar De La Hoya, Chris Eubank, Holly Holm, Chael Sonnen, Daniel Cormier, Joe Cortez, Paulie Malignaggi, Max Holloway, and Esther Lynn. And thank you once again to all of you. Back on Tuesday, same time and place. Till then, peace. Somebody.